Hey everyone. I'm sure that many WoT players want to get a 10-tier tanks as soon as possible, because those tanks are so strong, powerful and all that. But not many players think that at other tiers there are some interesting vehicles, playing which you can have fun. Most of those are tier 8 or 9. However, even at the lower tiers there are such vehicles. So, in this video you'll see the 3 strongest, and at the same time most interesting tier 7 tanks. Well, let's begin. The first is the American heavy tank, T-29. Against the background of other heavy tanks of this tier, it stands out for its incredibly strong turret, and also for its comfortable gun. Average penetration of basic shells is 198mm. This makes it easy to penetrate tier 7 and 8 tanks, as well as most level 9 tanks. Of course, if you have at least a bit of game experience. If you play like a moron, premium shells, average penetration of which is 245mm, won't help you either. Such characteristics of the gun as accuracy, stabilization, aiming time are quite good, but far from ideal. Especially compared to other heavy tanks, the guns of which are just awful in this respect. And most importantly, it's very easy to implement the T-29 gun, thanks to the strong turret, frontal armor of which is from 280mm. There is a small vulnerability, in form of a hatch, but it's very small, and it's pretty hard to hit it. In general, as practice shows, this turret perfectly absorbs shells even of enemies of tier 8 and 9. Plus, depression angle of the gun is as much as 10 degrees. This is very cool. Of course, there are also minuses. For example, poor mobility. Specific engine power is about 12 horses per ton. The top speed is 35 km per hour. This is a pretty slow tank, so, if you decide to play it, you need to correctly choose flank and take positions, otherwise you just will not have time to get to a fight. All in all, this tank is very cool. By the way, this is the first tank on which I got 3 marks. So I liked it. If you haven't tried the T-29 yet, I highly recommend it, you won't be sorry. The next is another American, this time a light tank, T-71DA. First, let's remember the history of this tank. A long time ago, at the 7th tier there was the T-71, in the T-57 heavy branch. Then there was a rebalance of light tanks, after which it was divided into 2 tanks, namely the miserable T-71 CMCD, which is now in the Sheridan branch, and the T-71DA, which is now almost a complete copy of the old T-71, with a bit lower average armor penetration. You can buy this tank in Collector Vehicles shop, for 1,400,000 silver, if you have at least one research tier 7 American tank. So, this light tank stands out first of all for its firepower. It has a 6-round clip, with 150 damage per shot, and 2 seconds reload inside magazine. The T-71DA can inflict 900 damage in 10 seconds. And while the other characteristics of the gun, such as accuracy, stabilization and aiming time are not very good, that's pretty good, as for a tier 7 light tank. The full reload time is 20 seconds. This means that T-71 can play not only as a classic light tank, but also as a light tank damager, which I recommend doing. Of course, some AMX 1357 would be much better in this respect, but it's a premium tank, and it costs money. But the T-71DA is a kind of free replacement of that Frenchman. And, of course, this tank has excellent mobility and camouflage, after all, it is a light tank. And, finally, the third, last tank in the list but not in importance, Soviet heavy tank, Su-100M1. Yes, you heard right, this is a heavy tank, despite the fact that it belongs to class of tank destroyers. After all, this tank has incredibly strong frontal armor, which is from 200 to 240mm on average, except for a vulnerability in the form of the hull bottom. Moreover, Su-100M1 has good mobility. The top speed is 54 km per hour. Specific engine power is about 16 horses per ton. Thanks to the good mobility and excellent armor, gameplay of this tank is simple and easy. Just drive forward, take positions for close fights, And, using the armor, destroy enemy tanks. As for a gun, it's just not bad, nothing more. Damage per shot is 250, damage per minute is 2200. It can be improved to 2700. Almost the same gun is installed on T-44, just they're a bit lower average penetration. Though the gun is not particularly powerful, but it is more than enough to comfortably fire at enemies, I remind you, at close range, because this tank is designed for this. Yes, the average penetration of 212mm is enough to penetrate most Tier 8 and Tier 9 heavy tanks, if you know how to play. Among the minuses, is terrible depression angles of the gun, as well as the fact, that sometimes you will have to play against Tier 9 tanks, which don't care about the armor of this tank. Okay. I'm sorry the video is so short. It's just that there are no more strong Tier 7 tanks, and I don't want to add 2 more random tanks to make the video longer. Thank you for watching this video to the end. I hope you found it useful. It's time to say goodbye. Good luck to everyone. And remember, don't play World of Tanks.